Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here this morning. I think the mic's on. And welcome to everyone who's tuning in virtually, too. We want to include everyone, but it's lovely to see some familiar faces in our hondo. And we're just happy to be here together to share the Dharma. So, we will begin our service by mind chanting all of our chants. We do not expel our breath. We listen to the recordings. And as we do our mind chanting, we also offer incense and gratitude to the infinite wisdom and compassion of Amida Buddha. And we do this mindfully by like a walking meditation where we socially distance as we come up to the altar to offer a small gift in gratitude. And you might notice that we have two different side altars, one to Kannon Bodhisattva, the Bodhisattva of compassion. So you're welcome to light a candle there for anyone who needs a little extra help, or somebody who has transitioned. So you can also write their name on the piece of paper there on the altar to recognize and honor them. And then here is our Medicine Buddha altar for yourself or others who need a little extra healing energy, healing from any kind of mental, emotional, physical ailment. So, our founder, Shinran Shonin, wrote our Shoshinge chant over 800 years ago, and he is still with us. He is guiding our lives. He wanted us to know that our life is more than a simple journey from cradle to grave. It's a long, unbroken thread of life which extends deep into the past, and we are responsible for helping to extend that thread into the future. So, the Shoshinge chant is a chant of learning about our lineage and our history and taking refuge in the infinite wisdom and compassion of Amida Buddha. The pronouncing it correctly or following along is not important. Just feel the chant wash through your body, and that is the most important part. Just feel that energy. So, chanting and offering incense. This is what we will do now. And if you're at home, please chant your little hearts out. You don't have to wear a mask, and you can offer anything at your home altar if you have one. It can be your own incense or food or water or anything in gratitude. Gratitude is the key. Okay. Thank you, thank you. Namondos.
Three homages.
Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. 奇妙無量寿如来南無不可思議光法蔵菩薩因理事財政自在応部省東県勝部浄土院国土人伝自然幕本流無常修正願長法慶右大偶勢高校士唯士小樹十世名称文字法不法無量無変更無限無体公園の少女歓喜知恵子不断難死無償子小日が交渉人生一切群上無交渉本願名号少女号死心信行願人上等学章大涅槃非死滅道願成就如来勝意公衆生唯生弥陀本願会五辱悪事群上会往生如来両実言の法一年喜愛心不願本の特涅槃本性逆法さえ入領収死入会一に聖主信根上昇後異の水波無明暗本内心臓死運無上空心事心人天異尿に幸福運無運無しげ妙無暗逆心謙虚大狂気即応超税合悪臭一切全幕本部人門心如来偶勢願運言広大小芸者全人名踏んだりけ弥陀部本願念部邪変教魔楽修上信行十字人に南州市南昔インド最天地論下中華自治域史構想現代小構成小異妙如来本税大き釈迦如来両合戦異種言妙な天竺流樹大事修道生執の財派無権先世大乗無情法召喚議事昭和楽賢治難行六六信行異行指導楽億年弥陀部本願次年即時入上唯の上昇如来語応報大悲偶勢音天神菩薩増論世奇妙無下根如来永寿ただ天神寺高専王朝大誓願こういう本願力栄光異道群上小異心記入空読大崩壊筆略入大永寿宗特使蓮華造世体即小信用法小心有本の人間人図入賞自音自用下本自論乱両天使上高乱小菩薩来三蔵ルシ十上教本性専業気楽法天神菩薩論中下報道因果見世願大元栄光有他力少女死因有信人惑前本部信人法承知承知即涅槃非死無量根妙道小宇宙上開復系同社継承道難所唯妙浄土活入万全自力変言宗円満特語感染症三風三心慶音言増魔法明道非因
異生増悪地偶税思案妖怪称名化全道独名無所異公愛上三両逆悪公明明後家二年海入本願大地界行者小樹金剛心狂気一年総合用意大東逆三人即所法所市上楽献身公開一大教返帰安養家二祭先祖出身反戦人統計二行小弁流極十悪人唯勝負大薬剤非正集中煩悩証言追不見大義無権上昇が本次元空妙仏教連民全幕本部人新宗教書公編集戦弱本願具惑性現代生じ臨伝芸形式異常異常し即入弱上無意楽一心事に納入不教大義修士と上妻無縁極辱悪同族自主良心唯過信し
栄光安にしくどくようどせいさいどうも大心お嬢はWe'd like to invite the children to go to Dharma School with Reverend Shelley.
The Mula Sutra, Roots. Thus I have heard, once when the Buddha was in Rajgir at the Bamboo Grove Monastery in the Squirrel Sanctuary, he spoke these words to those gathered. Students, there are these 3 roots of what is unskillful. Greed, anger, and delusion are the root of what is unskillful. Greed itself is unskillful. Whatever a greedy person generates by body, speech, or mind, that too is unskillful. Whatever suffering a greedy person, his mind overcome with greed, his mind consumed, wrongly inflicts on another person through beating or imprisonment or blaming or banishment with the thought, I have power, I want power, that too is unskillful. Thus it is that many evil, unwholesome qualities and events, born of greed, caused by greed, originated through greed, come to be. Anger itself is unskillful. Whatever an angry person generates by body, speech, or mind, that too is unskillful. Whatever suffering this person, his mind overcome and consumed with anger, wrongly inflicts on another person through berating or blaming, thinking, I have power, I want power, that too is unskillful. Thus it is that many evil, unwholesome qualities, born of anger, caused by anger, originated through anger, conditioned by anger, come to be. And so, delusion too is itself unskillful. Whatever a deluded person fabricates by body, speech, or mind is unskillful. With mind distorted and deluded, whatever suffering the ignorant person wrongly inflicts on another, thinking, I have power, I want power, that too is unskillful. Thus it is that many evil, unwholesome qualities, born, caused, originated, and conditioned by delusion, come to be. And a person like this speaks at the wrong time, untrue, irrelevant words, contrary to the Dharma and good conduct. Why? Because having wrongly inflicted suffering on another person, when told what is factual, he denies it and does not acknowledge it. He doesn't make any effort to untangle it, to say, this is untrue, this is baseless. That's why a person like this is called one who speaks wrongly. Just as a sal tree, a birch, or an aspen, when smothered and surrounded by 3 parasitic vines, falls into misfortune and disaster, in the same way, this person, overcome with evil, unskillful qualities born of the poisons, always feeling threatened, turbulent, feverish, dwells in suffering here and now, can expect a bad destination. These are the 3 roots of what is unskillful. Now, there are 3 roots of what is skillful. Which 3? Generosity is a root of what is skillful. Metta, love, is a root of what is skillful. Insight is a root of what is skillful. Generosity itself is skillful. Whatever a generous person does by body, speech, or mind, that too is wholesome. A generous person does not inflict suffering on another. With mind clear and generous, he banishes the thought of power over others. Thus, many skillful qualities, born, caused, originated from generosity, come to be. The same is true of metta, the lack of anger and aversion. Selfless love and caring is itself skillful. Insight itself is skillful. Whatever an insightful person does by body, speech, or mind, that too is wholesome. An insightful person does not inflict suffering on another. With mind clear and awake, he banishes thoughts of power over others. Thus, many skillful qualities, born, caused, originated from insight, come to be. A person like this is called one who speaks words, right, factual, relevant, in line with the Dharma, speaks in line with the good conduct. In a person like this, evil, unskillful qualities born of greed, anger, and ignorance have been abandoned, their roots destroyed, made like a palmyra stump, deprived of the conditions of growth, not destined for future arising. They dwell with ease in the here and now, feeling safe, peaceful, calm, and free. Free in this present moment. Just as finding an aspen tree smothered and surrounded by 3 parasitic vines, a man would come along with spade and basket. He would cut the vines at the root and dig around them. He would pull them out, even down to the rootlets. He would cut the stalks of the vines, slice them into splinters, pound them into bits, dry them in the wind and sun, burn them in a fire. Having burned them in a fire, reduced to powdered ash. Winnow them before a high wind, or let them be washed away in a swift flowing stream. In that way, the dangerous, parasitic vines would have their roots destroyed, deprived of conditions for growth, never to rise again. In the same way, in a person, any evil, unwholesome, unskillful qualities born of greed, anger, and ignorance are abandoned, their roots destroyed, depriving them for conditions of growth, never to rise again. This person dwells in peace, here and now, feeling safe, peaceful, confident, and calm, and is freed in the present moment. And so, the Buddha taught the 3 roots of what is unskillful and how to stunt their growth. The students understood and were greatly encouraged by the Buddha's words. We will now have a few moments of meditation accompanied by soft music.
I made it. It's always a little trepidatious as I perch up here. Oh, well, my microphone is on. Let me adjust it. That might be better. Okay. I made it. No, just kidding. It is a great joy to be with all of you today. These Sundays when we gather together are a wonderful opportunity for me to experience the Dharma. So, while I know it's not about me, secretly we all feel like it is. So thank you all for making my day so beautiful. It's also helpful that many of you have joined us streaming. I want to acknowledge your presence. Harder to sense given the technology, but being together is an antidote to the closed feeling that we have, the kind of alone, cut off feeling of being separated. So taking the time, making the space to be together is very important. I hope you guys also feel that. I mean, I'm feeling it. So this is a big day in America, a special Sunday, big game Sunday. Because of copyright rules, the NFL will not allow me to say the word Super Bowl during a streaming thing on YouTube, so I will not. And I won't be distracted by this historic event, this contest to see if Tom and Gronk can do it again. I barely even know who they are. Really don't know. Mahomes, I don't know who that is either. I will take a touch of peppermint in case the incense causes me to have my silly little cough. A winter allergy, it's sort of strange. I don't know why I have that, but mercifully, it is not affecting me at the moment. So this morning, as you might have noticed from Amanda's kind reading of the sutra, I will share some thoughts that sutra brought up for me about the three poisons: greed, anger, and ignorance. Deep down, at least one of these, usually all three, are present whenever things go wrong. The Buddhist path leads toward freedom and away from these fundamental spiritual afflictions. Greed, by this we mean our selfish desire and grasping for satisfaction outside of ourselves. Any wanting is a kind of greed. Anger refers to hatred, aversion, repulsion. This can be toward unpleasant people, situations, or even feelings inside ourselves that we want to push away or make us. So it's hard because we are not really angry at those feelings, but we are certainly repelled by them. And in Buddhism, we see the connection between those ideas. Ignorance refers to. I wasn't pointing to Jimmy when I said ignorance. It just happens to be my left hand. I generate. Ignorance, I've forgotten where ignorance is, refers to our dullness or our lack of curiosity, our misperception, wrong views of reality, and sometimes really active ignorance. We all do this. We try not to notice something, which is silly, but we do it. The Buddha said delusion. He used that word instead of ignorance most of the time. And I noticed that when I use the word delusion in a Dharma talk or something, most people don't really connect with it. They don't identify with it. They're sure they have no delusions, that sort of thing. So really they stop listening. So I stopped using the word delusion. I started saying ignorance. In the last 10 months or so, we have all experienced these three mind states. This pandemic and the various unrests that it has contributed to are maddening. And maybe you felt greed over wanting what you could not have due to lockdown. Maybe you felt angry at those who can't really understand how viruses spread and so keep spreading them. Ignorance is a hard one. While we all experience it, we seldom admit it. So maybe you felt it when you actively ignored the real frustrations that exploded into protest and violence and death last summer or recently at the Capitol. That's a kind of ignorance, when you just don't want to know. The poisons of greed, anger, and ignorance are a byproduct of not being enlightened. We are unaware of our true nature, the awakened heart of wisdom and compassion that beats inside us. We are really eternal, joy-filled, selfless, and wise beings. Unaware of this, our Buddha nature, the three poisonous states of mind lead to unskillful actions of body, speech, and mind, as we heard in the sutra. They cause all manner of suffering and unhappiness for ourselves and others. It is a vicious cycle because we inflict it on them and they inflict it on us, and so then we have to inflict more on them. It's very unpleasant. The round of birth and death. It's not unlike the NFL seasons, if you think about them. Every year, winning at any cost, there's the bad calls, the haughty superstars. Every year, the same thing. Even when you win a Super Bowl, oh, I said Super Bowl, sorry. A big game, it doesn't last. And a new September arrives, you lose all those free agents, and the struggle begins again. So you can probably tell I'm a Niners fan because that's really more the story of the Niners than any other football team. So, but spiritually, greed, anger, and ignorance are deeply ingrained in our personalities. We fear that we could cease to exist if we let them go. If I don't hate the Cowboys, am I really a Niners fan? That's a koan for you Zen Buddhists. Our behavior is habitually influenced and conditioned by these poisons. Their unwholesome roots lie deep in our mind. They burn inside us as craving, hatred, and misunderstanding. They poison our hopes and our dreams. They drive us blind and thirsty through a seemingly endless round of birth and death that we call samsara. The poisons are limits, they're hindrances. They are the actual root cause of all unskillful actions, or karma, causing all suffering felt by sentient beings in the 10 directions. I, for one, am convinced that we need an antidote, and the Buddha offers one. But first, let's look at each one of these poisons in detail. Greed. Our greed is burning desire. Now, as I talk about this, please try to find them in ourselves. It's very easy to find these things in other people. They all are just filled with them. But try to find these things in yourself as I talk about them. Greed, a burning, unquenchable thirst, or tanha. Craving and wanting. We want to be fulfilled, to validate the invalid self. We feel empty, so we want and want and want. If only the objects of our desire gave us lasting satisfaction, we'd feel satisfied. But they don't. Just one more touchdown, guys. Really? Or the classic, only one more potato chip. But then there's another that follows, because it doesn't feel enough, right? French fries are the same way, and I think it's even worse, because when you eat French fries, I think you feel worse and worse as you eat them, and you think eating one more will make you feel better, but it's actually what's making you feel that way. Anyway. Now I'm thinking about guacamole. I'm really trying to focus here. The poison of greed establishes hunger, spurring us to strive toward an unreachable goal. Post. We unskillfully construct a world where our happiness depends on that goal. But when we reach it, we feel no lasting satisfaction. So once again, our greed and desire come up. We look outside ourselves for the next thing that will, hopefully, bring true and lasting peace. Under the influence of greed, we will never find contentment. The more we have, the more we want. If 6 rings is not enough, maybe 7 would be just right. Yeah. It's a poisonous thought. Anger. The symptoms of this poison present as hatred, hostility, and aversion. When we wish harm or suffering on another. With aversion, we habitually avoid the unpleasant feelings or situations or people that we do not like. It seems right and natural that everything should be pleasant for us all the time. The pervasive presence of anger reinforces our identity. It is who we are. We are defined by who we hate. It is hard to hate Kansas City, because they're just so regular and not flashy or anything. And then there's Brady. So, hatred can cement us and them. The experience of duality, that is samsara. And it goes on and on and on. Hatred and anger pushes us into this unending cycle. We always need to find a defining conflict and enemies everywhere. Now enemies within, too. Yeah. Under an imagined threat of enemies, our mind is unsettled. That lizard mind that we talked about last time. Never calm, endlessly occupied with, should I fight or run? Oh, fight or flight. Working on strategies of self-protection, or maybe the final way to destroy the enemy. The hatred and aversion can even be against something inside ourselves. We push away our own feelings of hurt, inadequacy, or loneliness. We treat them like an internal enemy. With the poison of hatred, we create conflict and enemies. Ignorance is our fundamentally wrong understanding of reality. The Buddha used the word delusion in the sutra. And that does sound pretty crazed. Are we that far gone? Ignorance, delusion, is our misperception of the way the world works. We are unable to understand the nature of reality, to understand that it is changeful. We distort our view to suit the fiction of self. Under the self-delusion, we are not in harmony with ourselves or each other. We're not in harmony with life. We are not living in accord with the Dharma, and we cannot find peace. Ignorant of our true nature, we do not see that interdependence and impermanence are fundamental to being. In delusion, the duality of I, me, my separates us from that reality. We constantly look outside ourselves for happiness, that satisfaction. This futile outward searching generates even more frustration and anger and validates the delusion. We are caught in a trap. The poison of ignorance creates more ignorance. In the grip of this poison, we can't see that skillful actions, life-affirming actions, create happiness, and unskillful actions create our suffering. It is a poison that binds us in a vicious spiral. To quote the king, we're caught in a trap. There's no way out. I resisted doing the impression of the king. We're caught in a trap. There's no way out. I lose it on that last part. When you hear that song, don't you feel like like he knows the trap you're caught in? It's a wonderful song. But really, we don't see the way out. That's the problem there. There is a way out. The Buddha saw it. He saw the antidotes to these three poisons. For every impediment to enlightenment, these 108 represented in our Nenju, these are the impediments to enlightenment. That's why we carry this thing around with us, to remind us, oh, there's envy, that one, okay. Mindful of that, we can go somewhere. From these 108 impediments, the Buddha gave us, each one, an antidote, a method to eliminate unskillful mind states and replace them with skillful, wholesome ones, benefiting ourselves and others. The entire aim of real spiritual practice is gradually eliminating these mind states of greed, anger, and ignorance. We do this by cultivating the alternative way of thinking. States that are directly opposed to the poisons. These antidotes are called the three wholesome roots: generosity, love, and wisdom. To antidote greed, we learn to cultivate gratitude, generosity, and contentment, that enough feeling that we talked about last time we were together. When we are experiencing greed, strong desire, or wanting, we can let go. We can contemplate the impermanence and the disadvantages to whatever we're wanting. We can practice giving away those things we would most like to hold on to. We can also practice acts of selfless service and charity. Dana is our Buddhist word for that. Offering care and assistance to others in any way we can, free of all desire for recognition or compensation. The Buddha had no objection to enjoying and sharing the beauty and pleasures of objects in this world, as long as we realize the source of joy and peace is not outside ourselves. To antidote anger, as the sutra said, we cultivate loving kindness, metta, compassion, patience, and forgiveness. When we feel a reaction to unpleasant feelings in situations or people, when hatred, anger, and repulsion grip us, we can use this sublime antidote to counteract the poison. Life has ups and downs, and we can learn to openly embrace the entire spectrum of our experience without hatred or aversion. Just as we practice meeting unpleasant experiences in the outer world with patience, kindness, and forgiveness, we can also practice meeting our own unpleasant feelings in the same way, with compassion toward yourself, toward that part of yourself that's hurting or afraid. Our feelings of loneliness, hurt, doubt, fear all need our openness and our loving kindness. The challenge in spiritual practice is to soften our defensive habits, open our heart, and let go of hatred and aversion and denial. In this way, we can meet and embrace ourselves, others, and all our inner and outer experiences with great compassion and wisdom. And to antidote ignorance, listen. In Shin Buddhism, we call it deep hearing. To antidote and overcome delusion, we cultivate wisdom, insight, and right understanding. We listen. We allow ourselves to see that great compassion and great wisdom is all around us, that they are here for us, and that we are okay just as we are. Learning to experience reality as it is, peacefully observing, without the distortions of our self-centered desires and fears, we are freed from delusion. Deeply hearing and acting in harmony with the interdependent and impermanent nature of the world, we realize that all beings are inseparably connected, and that lasting happiness does not come from anything external. We develop a clear understanding of karma, knowing positive, wholesome actions bring happiness, and negative, unwholesome actions bring suffering. We cultivate the wisdom, insight, and right understanding that free us from delusion. An angel got his wings. Listening to Amida's call, the call of the infinite, this listening frees us from ignorance. After thinking on these poisons and recognizing how deeply they insinuate into our every thought, we see them more clearly. As you watch the big game today, we be mindful of how they are interwoven into so many aspects of the sports or media. They're even probably in the commercials, I betcha. Because if you want a Coca-Cola, we want you to want Coca-Cola because the Coca-Cola people are so happy. Oh, I said Coca-Cola. Can I say that on? Oh, okay, I'm fine. Even for a great being such as the Buddha, Antidote offered tremendous challenges. The Buddha taught the Dharma of the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path as an antidote to the three poisons. Amida Buddha's great vow is that every being will see clearly. They will see how things really work. This is ultimately a way to see our true nature. Eternal as the universe we are, joyful as in any circumstances, and selfless and wise as the Buddha. Once Glassman sensei, an American sensei, was asked, "What is enlightenment?" And he replied, "Enlightenment is the three poisons, greed, anger, and ignorance." The questioner said, "What?" "Yes, greed, the burning desire to enlighten all beings. Anger at delusion. And ignorance, find just don't know. Just don't know and live in that don't know. That is enlightenment," he said. Sometimes Shin Buddhism seems preoccupied with recognizing our Bonbu nature, our goofiness, our limitations, our troubles. But don't let it lead you to a guilt-laden, depressed state of mind. We have some limitations. Recognize Buddhism links our quest for truth with developing a compassionate heart, the heart of concern for all beings, compassion and wisdom inseparable. If I am wise enough to see that I have consumed the 3 poisons, and compassionate enough to know that I am okay just as I am made whole. I can live with the curiosity of just don't know until it's time. For a regular bonbonine or goofball such as myself, these poisons are ever present. Just seeing this is an important step. I realize that greed, anger, and ignorance permeate samsara, and I accept that they reside in me. Turning toward Amida Buddha, I find deep trust. I am no longer afraid, and aversion diminishes. When I approach life with gratitude to Amida, I can wash away greed. And when I listen deeply with a curious heart to the compassionate and wise universe around me, the ignorance of false views subsides. Please share with me this metta prayer for all beings suffering from these poisons. Say after me, may you be happy. May you be free from harm. May you receive boundless compassion. May peace and harmony fill your heart. Namanda, 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 namanda. At this point, we usually share our Reno Buddhist Center theme song. I will ask Masako and Reverend Shelley and Reverend Matthew to share with us that song. We will mind sing it here for safety.
Away, away, come away with me, where the grass grows wild and the winds blow free. Away, away, come away with me, and I'll build you a home in the meadow. Come, come, there's a wondrous land for the hopeful heart and the willing hand. Come, come, there's a wondrous land where I'll build you a home in the meadow. The stars, oh how bright and far, on a world of pure and eternal law. The stars, oh how bright they'll shine, on the home we will build in the meadow. Come, come, there's a wondrous land for the hopeful heart and the willing hand. Come, there's a wondrous land where I'll build you a home in the meadow.
Thank you. One announcement. Occasionally we need to mention that RBC survives solely on your donations. As you might imagine, the pandemic has been quite challenging for the temple's finances. We receive no support from Japan or anywhere. We would like to encourage everyone who is here or watching the service by streaming to make some donation. It's a dana challenge. The amount doesn't matter, really, doesn't matter. It's the action of giving that the Buddha encouraged. So, giving dana is an easy antidote to the poison of greed. So we're going for 100% participation. So whatever you can give is good. Let's see. Everyone can do their bit, just something. There's PayPal or Venmo if you're in the streaming world. Venmo also works if you're here. And there's also these strange little boxes on the wall that blend in awfully well. Boy, those need a new paint job, something sparkly. There's one there and one there. So thank you so much for your kindness and generosity. Oh, and if you could, when you leave the hall, please do it in an orderly fashion and separate from each other. Maybe I should say when you leave the hall, because there's no...